think that the most important job that I have is the job of being a parent, being a mother. It's taught me that change is inevitable and that many times change is outside of our control. But I think what I have learned most of all is that as out of control as life and change can seem many times for us as women, there are certain things that are indeed constant, and that if we apply ourselves to those things, then eventually the results are good, the results are positive. And for me, one of those things, as I heard a gentleman say recently, is performance. So every day, whether it's my job as a parent, or my job as a wife, or my job as a homemaker, or my job as a woman who leads others in the place of business, I bring to it the knowledge, or I bring to life the knowledge that I must do my best to perform at excellent levels. Now, there's a downside to this. The downside to this is that we generally put ourselves under a tremendous amount of pressure to perform and to be good at what we do. Sometimes that does a number of things to women. And one of those things is that it can begin to erode our femininity. And so in the midst of change, and in the midst of all the things that women these days are called to do and called to be, because the past taught us something. The past taught us that we were homemakers, and that if we entered into the workplace, we were only going to go so far. And then the present, today, teaches us that we can be a great number of things, that we can be fearless and that we can be strong. But in the midst of the past and the present, we have to find a balance that still says, I am tender-hearted, I am beautiful, on the inside as well as on the outside, and I am feminine, so that when we compete with our male counterparts for things in the workforce, or when the reality of our situations call for us to be tough and aggressive, that we can bring to it something that still says, I am feminine, I am a woman. A series of circumstances inspire us to change or force change upon us. And one of those things is age. I'm a few weeks away from the day where I can truthfully say that I'm closer to 50 than I am to 40. And as I think about that time, I would like to share with you one of my greatest inspirations. And this inspiration is my mother, who turned 80 last November. She meets with a group of women once a week. None of these women is younger than 70. But once a week, they come together, they share recipes, they share stories of their grand, and in some cases, great-grandchildren. They share the hopes for their twilight. And they do some aerobics. One of the ladies downloads current affairs, and she shares what's happening in the world with the other women who are there. I've watched them bury friends. I've watched them bury children. But I have watched them, most importantly, celebrate life. And this is something that should be a part of change. The ability to embrace every season of life. And sometimes the ability to celebrate in spite of life. Being able to look up, and sometimes even where there is no silver lining, to still say, here I am a woman. I celebrate life with its knocks. I celebrate life with its blessings. As recently as 3 months ago, I took a step that was not necessarily out of character, but it was certainly out of my comfort zone. I took a step towards a journey that was completely unfamiliar. And this journey was inspired by a young lady who is the youngest in the world to have, at the age of 18, run for elective office and become elected into parliament. I was sitting in traffic one day, and this is the story. And I bought an insert which was being sold by a street vendor. And this insert had the story of this girl. I read it once, and then I read it again. And I thought to myself, at the time I was reading this, I had a 16-year-old daughter, and I wondered, would she be in any way interested in running for political office or in applying for a job in the civil service when she was done with university? And from this little pivotal moment was born the Women in Government and Politics Conference Africa edition. And so, months after reading this article, before me were convened women from 22 African countries and young ladies from 5 African countries. The most interesting thing for me about taking the step towards a change in what I do every day in my life was the fact that all I had to do was respond to the moment. All I had to do was embrace the moment. Shortly thereafter, as soon as we began to speak of it, it crystallized. A life of its own was born, and it kind of ran away from me. That conference has given birth to a movement. And I say this just to inspire you who listen to me, that responding to a moment can birth not just change, but in change can birth a movement. Someone is watching. You may be doing something in the process of your change that appears to you to be uninspiring, but it is something you believe in. Just go ahead and do it. Our children are watching. Our elders are watching. Our peers are watching. And even if no one ever steps up to you and says to you, "You inspired me," even if no one stands in the wings applauding you and saying, "Well done for taking that step. Well done for being an inspiration. Well done for responding to being inspired," there is one who is watching, and that one is posterity. And in the years to come, posterity will remember, and posterity will speak of the day that you had the courage to inspire or be inspired to make a change.